How long has this been going on, RC?
Since 2011.
Was anyone born then? I'm kidding. Yes. I have a pop quiz. We're going to give some giveaway.
One little raffle, not raffle, but a prize to give away, a trivia prize, as we wait for the scores to see who's going to the second round.
And the prizes are this lovely re-gift. This lovely box. Hey, I'm going to lie to you. It's a beautiful little light box where you can put little words of poetry in there. Yeah? It's actually really sweet. And also, speaking of ecstasy, we've got The Ecstasy of Skeptics, poems by Stephen Heighton, donated by our very own Kara Schilber. So the question for you out there, it's a tough one.
Oh, before we get the question, I just want to quickly acknowledge my shirt.
Oh, right.
It says, slam poetry is the best, and my mom gave it to me. She didn't know. She's like, what is that poetry thing you do? I go, well, slam poetry is the best. Let's say it together. 3, 2, 1.
Slam poetry is the best.
Okay, give it away.
All right, so the question is, who was the champion of the 2012 Canadian Individual Poetry Slam? Who said that? Okay, well that ruined the whole fucking joke. That's great, fantastic. Thanks, Angelica. Come on up here. Let's go. Fine.
Well, that's good because you're the sacrificial poet.
Just stay on stage. Just stay on stage. It's fine.
Poets moving on to the second round. Actually, let's thank the poets who did a great job and are not moving on, but I want to thank them so much for their work, okay? So let's just start a little drum roll, make some noise for these poets. Thank you to Mars. Thank you to Fazia, Daniela Mercedes, Apollo the Child, and Eco Aboriginal. Thank them all so very much. Moving on to round 2, Deirdre Lee, Q, Liana, Asya, Spin, Nisha, and Kassirer.
Amazing. So speaking of sacrificial poets, here's your next sacrificial poet. It was already on stage. The amazing, come over to this one. Find your light. The awesome Angelica Poversky!
I love you all too. Can I? Okay, I'm gonna shout out to everyone who both did and did not make it to the second round. This kind of stuff, it's super weird. Like, I don't believe in slam, whatever. You're all beautiful. You're all killing it. Everybody's great. Fuck the points. It's all good. So this poem I wrote for a really special someone. A real fuckboy compares wearing a condom to 1 million tiny lobsters eating his penis alive. A real fuckboy doesn't believe in commitments, relationships, or vaccination. A real fuckboy vapes during sex. A real fuckboy sends you unsolicited pictures of his poetry. A real fuckboy doesn't believe in labels, except his own labels, because he's a hashtag self-made, hashtag self-starter, hashtag entrepreneur, hashtag not all men, hashtag sad today. He's sad today because you didn't give him a blowjob or a promotion. So he tries to get you thirsty, but instead he makes you so dehydrated you get a UTI. I know I can be a bigger, better fuckboy than all these motherfuckers. So I load up Tinder like a hand grenade against a field of white boys. I pose for a picture with a hunting gun, a red Mercedes, and a dead fish because I'm ready for the war. My bio says you up with a capital P for the patriarchy and 2 small U's because you don't matter as much as I do. I don't do marriage, but I do sex. And I will fuck them with my feminism until their shock and disbelief turns into jizz and credit cards. I will fuck them with my feminism until they orgasm believing in the wage gap. Until they moan my name and also scream Alexandra Ocasio-Cortez. I will fuck them until they stop running for president. Until there are as many abortion clinics as there are Starbuckses. Until they realize God has always been a lesbian. The men I fuck will get so good, they will define feminism for me. They will go on stage and speak my truth better. They will tell me I am the moral of their story. They will get paid for my work. They will get an award on Women's Day. I open my mouth and my legs and find this freedom will always be appropriated. My sexual liberation becomes a dance, a gazed upon dance. My raised fist becomes their hat hanger. Their honey smiles become an orange clockwork of allyship. They throw an army of manipulated bees into my mouth. They tell me this is what I asked for. Women tell me, isn't this what I wanted? I absolve the sex where I swallowed and spat other people's prescription of my wants. I absolve trying to teach only to be hunted with more specificity. I absolve the men that took my pussy as a gateway to my prayers and were called the good ones. I absolve the male masks I reveled in and the trust that was cut out of me. I absolve myself until there is no salt left in the Pacific. Until men holding me up like a prop feminist fish, easily gutted for food, with bones used to clean white smiles, is a photo to take back.
Your round two sacrificial poet, Angelica Poversky. Give Angelica a lovely round of applause. And in case you missed it, poets who are in the second round, this is the order: Deirdre Lee, Q, Liana, Asya, Spin, Nisha, and K. All right, so Q, you're on deck, and well, it's sort of Deirdre you are, but Q, you're on deck, and Deirdre Lee will kick things off. All right, judges, let's see your scores, please. 3, 2, 1. Let me see. We have a 9.5, a 9.4, another 9.4. A 9.8 and a 9.6. Applaud your poets, please. Good time? We had a time penalty. What was it? 4:04. Endgame spoiler. Thanos unleashes a deadly virus throughout the universe. Tony Stark creates a vaccine. Pepper Potts, a.k.a. Gwyneth Paltrow, convinces him not to use it, and Iron Man dies. That didn't really happen. Q, you're on deck. Please welcome Deirdre Lee to the stage. Kicking off the second round. Make some noise for your poet. Come on, here we go. Deirdre Lee.
Far too often, I find myself, my plans shoved onto tomorrow's shelf, watching, waiting, hypervigilant, heart palpitating, pondering, but angrily, what would actually be enough to blow away all the pearl clutching, tone policing, gaslighting, and not just for the day, because my window of tolerance is so small, I can't fit. And I have had so much more than too much of it, because I've got this nervous system, you see, and it's kind of destroyed by complex PTSD, which I've got because I wasn't kept safe or believed, and the damage was done and no evidence retrieved, so that for years, even I didn't define them as crimes. I do now, because they were, but most of the time in my life, it's just safety I've sought. But there have been too many days that I'm left pissed off and distraught when one more person from a super duper long line turns out to labor under the delusion that racism and misogyny and transphobia are like, fine. And as if that isn't triggering enough, all the experts come out and start devil's advocating on stuff. And I've tried turning off media and electronic devices, but isolation won't insulate me from this crisis. Because judgment that's thrown at my family known and unknown pours poison on seeds of healing faithfully sown, because can we talk about how so many fine folks that I know, that you know, those lovelies that stoke the metaphorical fires that keep all of us warm with food, shelter, and kindness, bringing shelter from storm, who give so much more than they get, but could give and be so much more, without hearts, minds, souls, bodies perpetually sore from constant inundations of fear and of hate. Violence, ubiquitous, both tiny and great, because I am exhausted, for real. And I can never relax, because even if I could somehow ignore all the facts, reality checks lurk each time I step outside. And toxic people in cars, clubs, and poetry slams make me want to hide or yell and throw rocks, which I haven't, not yet, but if I were putting money on it, I wouldn't bet, because I gotta tell you, my nerves, paper thin, overwhelmed with such frequency, I forget how to begin. And so I search for good accomplices in cafes and alleys, and I write poems like this one, and I recite them at rallies, because it's 2019 now, and I have changed that dateline 4 times. And I want you to know I will keep changing it until the need for this poem stops, because I can't trust the media or judges or cops, because they use words like justice, but it seems like that means they do what they want, but creator forbid we cause any scenes, which, pardon me, but fuck that deal. If actions and words don't match, it's just noise. Let's be real, because my window of tolerance gets smaller with each act of violence or silencing, and yet I still reach for what feels like justice for everyone. So let me be clear as glass, y'all. I'm so far from done. Thank you.
Give it up for Deirdre Lee. Judges, you're not done. Let's see those scores. 3, 2, 1, up with them. Come on, scores. I need 5 of them. All right, we've got a 9.1, 9.0, 9.1, 9.2, and a 9.3. Give it for the poetry. Okay, Liana, you're on deck right now. Give it up for Q. All around the stage.
How to have a funeral for a broke bitch, as described by a broke bitch. Put subway tokens over my eyelids. Maybe I will find my way home under the cover of permanent night. Hop the turnstiles on the banks of the Styx. Stuff mothballed pockets with stolen transfers. Wrap my stiff fingers around plastic flowers, which will be trying and failing to be beautiful for far longer than I did. Lilies or orchids, something else people keep calling exotic instead of alien. Wrap me in newspapers, in headlines full of math, foreign conversions, 105.2 Pakistani rupees to 1 Canadian dollar. How many Pakis to 1 Canadian life? How many of me and in between? How much do I go for on the market, alive or dead? On second thought, don't gift me to the ground with a price tag on my corpse, a bounty on my head. Don't bury me with anything holy unless you want me to dig my way out of my grave where everything holy had already put me living. Tallying my sins, 1,000 years in hell for what I left in the past, every missed prayer, every missed fast. I spent so long seeking revelation and self-deprivation, going on hunger strike to get the big man to notice, but God's always been quiet. So don't invite him. Everything about me's always been a blasphemy. Faith has always been a game I keep losing. Make it an open casket. I've spent so long hiding, making myself smaller than 5'9" in death. I want to be taller than mountains. I want forests of sequoias and sycamores to grow from my rotting body, to touch the sky I always feared. But you better bury me face down. You have no idea how good I am at finding my way back from the very brink of death. How bad I am at staying dead. How badly I want to be alive, even with maggots in my brain and worms in my mouth. I force myself to breathe, for words to come out. You could turn my carbon backbone into vinyls or diamonds. Carry my constituents in an unrecognizable form if you'd like, but I guess I'm old-fashioned. For what it's worth, I'd rather you let me turn back into dirt. I'd rather you let me become something living.
Thank you, Q. That was Q. Come on, make some noise for your last poet. Judges, 3, 2, 1. Let me see your scores, please. We have a 9.2, a 9.4, a 9.2, a 9.0, and a 9.8. Give your poet another round of applause, please. Do it all the time. Do it all night long. Asya, you're on deck, but please welcome Liana back to the stage.
You are 19 years old and tutoring part-time at a learning center, and you cut your hair short when you were on student exchange last spring, and your greatest fear right now is that one of the kids you work with will ask you a question that you won't know the answer to. The concept of being not a boy or a girl, but both and neither, never and all the time, seems too complicated a response to the grade school kinds of questions these kids usually ask you. Questions that have nothing to do with math or English or science. Questions like, what's your favorite color? What's your favorite sea creature? How many books have you read? How many presents did you get for your 9th birthday? Did you vote for the conservatories in the North American election? These questions are all part of the consummate constellation of dreams and dreads and desires that all run riot inside your head, hopscotching alongside the certainty that someday you will be loaded with debt and dependence and probably even more disorders than you already have. One thing you're sure of is the shame that you feel at the back of your throat when you think about how comfortable you have felt in every men's section of every clothing store you've ever been in. You have realized how ironically natural it feels to extend your lashes and color your eyelids, as though you were an imposter who felt totally at home in the arbitrary disguise that they were born into. The first time you try on a chest binder, it feels like someone is holding you very tightly with no intention of letting you go. So you buy it, but it'll be months before you find the courage to wear that feeling in public. You love to wear high heels because it feels so good to be a few more inches above everyone else and all their bullshit, and you wish you could wear them all the time. You are still preoccupied with the time someone called you jeune homme, young man, and you realize their mistake, but only because you're not sure that that's actually what it was. Breaking out of the boxes you were assigned before birth has left you liberated, but also unmoored, like a kid home alone for the first time, like a child finally on a big kid bicycle, with no training wheels and no rules, independent and alone. You will have to decide how to answer all the questions coming at you like dodgeballs from other people, but also from yourself. Questions about bathrooms and changing rooms, about the way you dress and walk and speak, about how you use a razor, how you cross your legs, questions about how you will relate to other people and about how you will react to how they will react to what you do and think and say in this body that you have realized is yours to inhabit however you want. And finally, one of the kids at the learning center pops the question, this little girl dressed all in pink who loves gym class, and she says, "Are you a boy or a girl? You seem like both." And at first you think that that last part wasn't technically a question, so you don't really have to answer that. But then another kid who has trouble with science and who never stops talking steps in and he says, "Jessica, how could you be so rude? That is none of your business. Also, how many pieces of Lego do you think there are in the entire world?" And for a second, you can see yourself in both of them because all three of you are just kids and suddenly you feel no shame at the back of your throat. And one thing you're sure of is that maybe there are some questions you will never know the answers to and that that's okay.
Give it up for Liana. Judges, for the love of Lego, signs, numbers on sticks, scores up, 3, 2, 1, raise them. We've got a 9.9, a 9.9, a 9.3, a 9.5, and a 9.6. Give it up for the poetry. Nisha Patel, you're on deck right now. Give it up for Asya.
My mother makes bamya, a stew of okra and meat. It is difficult to chew. It slides down your throat, chokes you without you swallowing. The days my mother cooks with fumbled, clumsy hands, the okra comes out tasteless and bitter all at once. The man spits at my feet at the bus stop, and I barely sidestep the glob of saliva and mucus. When he smiles, it is with straight white teeth and mean eyes. And when he speaks, I already know I will be mocked, senses on defense, fingers tucked in tightly to my palm. The man asks if I think I am better than him because I pray 5 times a day. He sneers, asks if I think God loves me more. I tell him that's not how this works. I tell him to please leave me alone. He spits again, follows me onto the bus, and I am eating bamya. I am choking without swallowing. I feel like if I manage to open my mouth, the air will be bitter and tasteless all at once. The woman sits across from me in a waiting room, and she looks at me. She looks and she looks and she looks until her gaze is a heavy thing. And when she finally speaks, I am gasping for air, choking, nervous in a way only a white woman can make me nervous with their viciousness, their inability to see anything beyond their own selves. She asks if I ever dream of anything better for myself than my rags. She tells me that I could be beautiful, that men will love me more if I take off my layers. She asks what I am hiding from, and everything in me is seizing. If she wrapped her hands around my neck, I think I would have breathed easier. I am eating bamya, molars clenched against the bitter taste. When I get up to leave, she flips bleach blonde hair out of her face and mocks me before I've even turned my back. My tongue is numb, tasting nothing. I walk home and my mother waits for me at the table, fingers interlaced, thumbs twiddling. She tells me there's a dish of bamya and rice waiting for me, and I sit down, load my spoon and fill my mouth and chew and swallow and chew and swallow. I do not tell her I've been choking all day. I do not tell her that bamya fills my stomach with dread. I do not tell her about the spit or the questions. And when I finish my plate, she asks if I liked dinner, and I tell her yes. I tell her bamya does the job it's meant to. It fills my stomach. It gives me energy to wake up the next morning. It is food, and that means it is everything I need to survive. I tell her I am grateful to bamya. I cannot complain about its stringiness because bamya is the reason I do not go to bed hungry. Never mind the fact that bamya makes me feel like my throat is collapsed in on itself, makes me feel like I've eaten a sock, like I'm clogged and hungry at the same time. I thank my mother and walk upstairs into the washroom. I kneel on cold tile until my knees ache. I grip porcelain until my fingers cramp. My stomach heaves until my throat is raw. I leave bamya in the toilet. I flush. I brush my teeth. I go to bed, hungry.
Keep it going, Asya. Thank you. Judges, lovely work. Like your work. Let's see what you think. 3, 2, 1. Show me your scores, please. We have a 9.7. We have a 9.7. We have a 9.5. We have a 9.7. And we have a 9.8. Applaud your poet, please. We also have a time penalty. Sorry? 3 minutes, 25 seconds. Spoiler, Captain America gets a thyroid condition. On deck, Nisha. But please welcome your next poet, Spin. All the way. Spin is next. Nisha's on deck. Please welcome Spin to the stage.
Conversations with progressive white executives at a local university student union. Hey, Spin, those black guys in your office, are they students? Yes, Nora. Those African brothers in baggy pants in my office are in aerospace engineering, actually. It says it right on their fucking hoodie. I realize in your minuscule mind there might be high school dropouts setting up a drug deal during midterms in my office, but we're actually setting up a recruitment fair for black high school students so that they know they'll be protected from that racism, bigoted, ever so Canadian racism that led you to ask me that shit. Idiot. Dear progressive white academics, activists, and others of your ilk who have yet to unpack your backpack of white privilege. I am a glitch in the matrix. This poem will hurt, and I don't give a fuck. Given that my pale skin has granted me access to the same white privilege you will take to your grave denying, I feel compelled to share with you some things. When I say that I am Latino, please do not respond immediately with, oh my God, I love salsa. Do not be disappointed when I tell you I don't dance it, and don't you dare question my ethnicity because of this. Your one black, indigenous, or Muslim friend in your circle is not automatically a spokesperson for the whole of fucking Africa, Turtle Island, Black America, or Islam. They are not expert panelists on Democracy Now!, and your dumbass is not Amy Goodman. Moving on. Dear progressive white academics, my ex-girlfriend was pursuing her master's degree. As part of this, she enrolled in a course called Decolonizing Africa, taught, of course, by a fucking white man. She was the only black student in the class. She left that class in tears repeatedly. Would you care to guess why? Dear progressive white activists, inviting indigenous elders to perform opening ceremonies at your events can be a respectful thing to do. However, only giving them 5 minutes to do so is tokenizing. Not sure if you've actually attended an opening indigenous ceremony before, but I have, and it lasted a lot longer than 5 fucking minutes. Dear progressive white academic activists, you know who you are. The students, unite. Tuition is fucking expensive. Those of you who have the nerve to get upset when we call out racism in this progressive bastion of revolutionary change known as the university student movement, to you I say this. You patronizing, tokenizing, inconsequential motherfuckers have yet to achieve anything tangible or substantial. You have no clue how to organize the proletariat. You've never set foot in a hood. You love to act hood until the hood acts up. Then your white ass calls the fucking police. Your white fragility has become burdensome, so please, the next time you feel the need to question whether a group of aerospace engineering students actually attends a university because they happen to be black, do us all a favor, check your white privilege, and shut the fuck up.
Dear progressive anti-colonial judges, that was Spin. Do your job. 3, 2, 1, up with the scores! We've got a 9.0, 9.5, 9.7, 9.7, 9.5. Give it up for the poetry! Okay. Kate, Kassirer, you're on deck right now. Bring it up for Nisha!
Tell me again how unclean I am. Tell me how tainted is my touch. Tell me how my God doesn't want me to pray to him just because my uterus is preparing itself for his gift. Tell me that I must be made timid before temples, that I should shrink before shrines, that my bathing must be a ritual. Tell me why my body's sacrificial fluids render me untouchable. Tell me that I am more unsightly than Ganesha's elephant head. Mr. Remover of obstacles, great deity of wisdom, afraid of spoiled prayers that run across his feet like mice. Tell me that I am more inhuman than Hanuman's monkey mouth, that my angry PMS eclipses the wrath of Shiva's third eye. My God is so self-righteous, thinking that my blood makes me impure, makes me unholy, the same blood he drinks from when he's thirsty for followers, looking for a dry stable, the heat of a warm belly. You see, when my sisters bleed in secret and stealth, when they huddle in cold cowsheds atop Hindu mountains, shoving mud between their legs and straw beneath their clothes, my God reveals himself to be a coward. He does not realize that when I bleed, his future bleeds with me. You see, my blood forges baby's bones, is the sweat on the brow of Mother Earth. My blood is the color of potential dreamers waiting to be birthed. My blood can only be God-given, man forsaken. It needs no distance to remain divine.
I am evidence that God tried to punish us, to deny us, to discharge us from heaven. God so feared women that he tried to wound us. But our fleeing blood makes us stronger. Our rivers red make us resilient. We are wise women, tempered by our trials. You see, my body knows loss, knows restoration, knows regeneration. It is a monthly revolution, and I am an activist leading a dripping red rebellion. Don't let me touch you now. You might catch being a woman. I mean, if you're lucky, you too will find pain, fight fire inside yourself, and emerge 3,000 days later, more beautiful than before. So uncork my body like a fine wine. Offer me no unclean separation. Heed this battle cry of a new feminist generation. How the hell do we still fear menstruation?
Your poet, Nisha Patel. Judges, 3, 2, 1. Let us see your scores, please. We have a 9-6, a 9-4, a 9-9, a 9-3, and a 9.7. Thank you, Nisha. Please welcome your final poet in the second round. Back to the stage, Kassirer. Here we go. Come on, make some noise for your next poet, Kassirer.
Autism Speaks, after Arvind Nandakumar. Autism tries to speak, but is only listened to in prenatal tests. Autism tries to get a diagnosis. Doctor says labels will only complicate things. Doctor says major depressive disorder, says social anxiety, says borderline personality disorder. Doctor says labels. They only complicate things. Doctor means autism. It only complicates things. Autism just wants to be understood, wants to be researched like a disability and not a disease. Autism sits on the spectrum, swinging like a pendulum, unsure of where it lies. Some days, high-functioning, others unable to speak. Autism tries to speak, tries to say, I am here, and my brilliance has saved you many times before. World says back, so what? Don't you know that I have saved you too? Created an entire organization to speak on your behalf, to speak about you behind your back. We are learning how to exterminate you. Does that not make you happy? No one else will have to suffer the way you have. Autism wants to speak, has been wanting to speak, has been waiting to speak. Autism has had to find its own places to speak. At a poetry slam, autism hears itself on stage, hears snaps, hears go in, hears you exist. Here is an audience that may actually take me seriously, that may actually listen to my story. My autism will not let doctors dictate its authenticity any longer. My autism is ready to speak.
Give it up for Kassirer. Audience, thanks for listening. Thanks for being here and hearing us speak. But judges, thank you for doing your job. 3, 2, 1, up with those scores. We've got a 9.6, 9.6, 9.3, fuck that sign, 9.8. Not you, the sign. No, unless you say yes. Okay, and then 9.9. Give it up for the poetry. How was that second round, y'all? Amazing, right? Cool. So while give it up for Hal, our bout manager today, giving our stats, help give a big love to all the scorekeepers and timekeepers. Yeah. Without these folks got nothing to do. I'm totally kidding, but write amazing poetry.